Nope.
And we're off. And other folks who choose to join us can stroll on in, and we'll admit them as they show.
I know Brent was supposed to be on. He alerted me earlier in the day, so
Yeah,
he should be on.
Yep, he should. He asked late last minute for the oh wait, I think this is him, for the Zoom link today. So I presume that shows interest. Maybe too big a leap, too big an assumption, but I presume so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we are once again, the November meeting of the SABR North Florida Buck O'Neill chapter. In the shadow of what was a pretty exciting World Series. I personally had hoped for 7 games. I was rooting for the Braves, except when it started to seem like they were pulling away, and then I rooted for the Astros to make up the difference and try and close the gap so that we'd get a 7th game tonight. But the Braves thought otherwise and delivered a pretty decisive blow last night. Any thoughts about the World Series? And before I turn it over to a man who was in attendance at a few of those games, any general thoughts or impressions about the World Series?
I saw a lot of it. I found it entertaining. I was rooting hard for the Braves, who've been either my favorite team or one of my favorite teams for most of my life. And I kept anticipating the collapse, even when they got up, when they had 3 wins. But I thought it was a pretty darn good World Series myself.
Yeah, I was similarly entertained. I was even with a couple of the early games being somewhat one-sided. I thought the 2 games in Atlanta, 3 and 4 in particular, were pretty exciting, pretty fun to watch. Gee, Glenn, what do you think about games 3 and 4 in Atlanta?
Really? Well, it was really a neat experience from a couple perspectives. One, I had been up there earlier for the Yankee series against the Braves, and I think I might have commented at one of our meetings that I was not impressed with the Braves fans because there was much more Yankee noise in the stadium than Braves in their own stadium. However, for the World Series, it was frickin' nuts. They had a change of emotion. When I got there, when my friend and I, Charlie and I got there, it was jam-packed in the Battery, of course. And by the time we got in the stands, every seat was sold. They were selling standing room only tickets for $1,200.
Wow.
On Friday. And Charlie had procured our seats for 2 games. His wife has a woman friend who has a son who had season tickets to the Braves games. And so Charlie asked Martha, his wife, to call her friend, and see if we could get to the son. And that all happened. And the son sold his tickets that were $250 each for the season. They're right behind home plate, 2nd level up, just superb seats. And Charlie bought them for $1,600 a piece. And not just for me, but also for his 2 sons to go. And so we all were having heart attacks over that. Couldn't believe that amount of money for a ticket to see a baseball game. But essentially, by the time that was, I guess, about 4 days before the first game was when he got those tickets, or 3 days, somewhere in there. And by the time we got there on Friday for the first game there, those tickets were selling on StubHub for $5,000 a piece. And by Sunday, for the game that some people thought might be the clincher, those tickets were up to around $6,000-7,000. So people were going freaking nuts to see these games, and they actually during the entire experience in both nights. High emotion, constant chants, and constant support for the team. The guy next to me the first night was a big burly guy, neat guy though, nice guy, not a mean guy. But he started the cheater chant when Altuve would come up. And so me, having spent years, most of my life, trying to have a sense of decorum at sporting events, said, screw that. They screwed my Yankees. And I started chanting, cheater, cheater. And I let it out, and I feel better than I've ever felt. I got all my aggressions out over 2 nights. So the whole stands, I mean, everybody was just really involved in the game. So it was a lot of fun. And the team did, I thought, very well during those 2 games, and just submitted to the Houston team in the 3rd game. But it was a lot of fun. After it was over, I had wondered whether I would ever consider paying that kind of money to go see the Yankees, if they ever get in the World Series. And by the time I got out of there after 2 games, oh, by the way, the 2nd game, we were there Saturday night. When we left, we went to, Charlie had just blown the wad. He would not tell his wife how much he had paid for all this stuff.
The wise decision.
Yes,
Whoa.
very, very astute.
Yeah. But we were, he had also bought parking tickets right next to the stadium in a parking garage. So the 2nd night, it was tough getting out of, it wasn't tough getting into the parking garage because we went early, but it was tough getting out the 1st night. But the 2nd night, it was more than tough. We sat there got our car in the queuing line to get out of the parking lot after the game. And we sat there for over an hour, about an hour and 10 minutes, just sat there. Nobody moved in these lines. And we're all going, what the hell is going on? You were thinking there were big traffic accidents on the feeder roads or whatever. But what it was, as you may know, is former President Trump attended the game.
Yeah.
So they just tied up all the streets and stuff until he and his entourage successfully exited the stadium. So that was, luckily we felt very good about the win. So it offset the frustration of sitting there for an hour and making sure your air conditioner was on for all the fumes in that garage. Could have killed us all. So, but it was a great experience, and I would definitely pay that kind of money to go see particularly a Yankee game, World Series. There's something about it. Both of us felt at the conclusion of it that, yeah, it's hard to say it out loud, but money well spent. It was really a great experience, and I'm just very, very happy I finally got to a World Series. So it was worth it. It was fun.
I can't say it, especially because the Yankees in a World Series is very rare now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I decided that was great to go to this one, because I may not get that bucket list item checked off anytime soon. But it was great.
Cool. Thank you. That's a pretty cool little insight. And I don't know how many other folks here in the meeting have been to a World Series game. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I've been to 3.
Okay.
I was at the Braves Yankees series, 2 games in Atlanta, the Padres and Yankees. I was at 2 games in New York, and then I was at the Marlins Indians 6th and 7th game down in Miami, which was quite an experience. I mean, I enjoyed them all. I had a great time. But the Marlins were just crazy because nobody left that stadium for about an hour and a half after the game. They just stood there and kept on cheering and cheering and cheering.
Wow.
When the Marlins won, it was, quite an experience. It was really cool.
Jim Turner, did I see?
Oh, I went to 78 with the Yankees Dodgers.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Caught a couple.
Oh, neat.
Caught a couple of the Braves. Cleveland, I mostly hit playoff games when they were having their big run in the 90s.
Okay.
Did not get down to the Marlins for any of theirs.
Hmm. And Brent, I saw your hand up. I know you must have covered.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hold on, Brent. I think
He's on mute.
hang on, Brent. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay. I don't know if you saw, it looks like Buster's retiring in the morning, and maybe you saw that earlier.
Yeah,
Said it
that was the next topic on the docket.
I saw that game in '85 in Kansas City. The call. Okay. I saw the '85 game. I covered Major League Baseball for 4 years, but I covered the Twins, so they weren't anywhere around the World Series from '74 to '77. But I saw the '85 game, sixth game in Kansas City with the blown call at first when they played the Cardinals. And actually, I was there sitting in the stands with my ex-wife, and we were in the first. We're in the second deck on the first row, looking right down on first base. And so I knew he was out. I didn't give it a thought. All of a sudden, the uproar breaks out. And of course, today it'd be all changed around. But that's, believe it or not, that's the only major. I've been to other games. I've been to All-Star games. Actually covered a couple. But that's the only World Series game I've ever attended in person. And that was but a memorable one at that. With what happened.
Yeah.
So.
I always remember at Roger Dean Stadium, and they're in the ticket booth, they have a giant blowed up photo of that play.
I'm gonna guess that that's not the Marlins ticket.
No, it's on the Cardinals. It's on the Cardinals side.
Yeah, I would think so, man. Geez, why would you want to every day come to work and see that?
Oh, they revel him just because it's the umpire with a safe call right by. It was great.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's special.
I think it's their disdain for that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've never made it to a World Series game. That is still definitely on the bucket list. And my wife and I were hatching some madcap schemes to at least go see some Rays playoff games if they made it to the LCS. So that we didn't have to worry about spending that money. But yeah, I've never made it. I made it to the NLCS in 1996. Cardinals Braves, 3 games in St. Louis, but never seen a World Series game.
Did Glenn say what those tickets cost? I got on late. I apologize.
Oh yeah, Glenn.
Yeah.
No, I think you should definitely share that again, even though we've now got it recorded for us.
Okay. Well, my buddy who got the tickets, Brent, got it through his wife's friend, and her son had the season tickets, and he, as a nice guy, sold Charlie, my friend, the 2 tickets for each game for each of us for $1,600 apiece. But by that was about 3 days before the first game at Atlanta. And by the time we went to the game on Friday night, those same seats in that area, which is the second level right behind home plate, they were going for $5,000.
I'd heard that on TV. Wow.
Yeah, and then by Sunday they were going for around $7,000. So it was quite expensive to go to that game, and the place was packed, and they were going nuts. I mean, everybody. Oh, the other thing I noticed, which I found fascinating, was that of all the 45,000 people plus all the standing room only, Brent, was $1,200 per ticket. Standing room only.
Unbelievable.
Charlie is 76. I'm 75. We looked for anyone near our age going through the hall of the stadium exits and entrances and in our seats and all around, walking to the concession stands. Never saw one person that we thought was anywhere near their 70s.
Well, most people that age saw the weather going.
Well, yeah, it was cold, but it wasn't that bad.
Was it raining?
Hey, I just admire you for staying up at your age. I went to sleep
That's what
at
I was
16 every game.
Yeah, we didn't get to bed until 2:00 each morning. By the time we were able to exit the stadium parking lot, and by the time we got back to Charlie's house, it was 2:00 each morning. It was a
I was
killer.
gonna say that whole setup there is a nice place for. I mean, if you're young, that's a great little downtown area.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. I mean,
You don't
the
even have to go into
battery,
the stadium. I mean, that's,
it's all great, but
Yeah.
my point was this, look at how much money was paid for these tickets. And these are all, I would say most of the people were in their 40s would be my guess. But there were tons of
It's all
young
corporate,
children
though.
there. There
It's
were
all-
babies and young
But-
children.
right, but it's a lot of corporate. It's like my brother's with Coke. He had tickets and they were at a couple of the games. I don't know which ones, but yeah. I mean,
Okay, yeah, if you were in a business or something like that, you could get tickets, I guess. You still had to buy them. I mean, Coke bought them, whoever.
he's
Was it
at that level, he doesn't
$1,600
do that
face
anymore.
value on the ticket, Glenn? Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
You said you paid $1,600 for a ticket. Was
Yeah.
that face value for the ticket or,
No, face value is $250.
okay.
That was
Oh my
the,
God.
in other words, well, that's,
There are a lot of people making a lot of money out there. Wow.
Yeah. No, come to think of it, Jim, what I was told was that it was $250 for my seat and Charlie's seat for the season ticket. It averaged $250 for that seat. I'm not sure.
game?
Come to
Oh
think
my
of it,
God.
Per
I'm
game?
not, yeah, per game.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if like whoever sells the tickets, is it the stadium? Is it the Atlanta Braves or whoever sells the ticket for the World Series for an open seat that wasn't a season pass? I'm not sure who sells the tickets for,
I'm guessing MLB must, but through I don't know. That's a good question. MLB must sell the tickets to the playoffs and World Series.
yeah.
Because
So
you
I'm
don't
not
know,
sure.
you don't know who the teams are going to be till like a day or two before. So
Yeah. So I guess in other words, you go on StubHub and they're out of sight. I mean, $10,000 for some of the tickets for the seats
Wow.
behind home plate in the first level. They were $10,000 to $15,000 per seat. But that was through StubHub. But who sells the tickets? If that's secondary market. But I don't know. In other words, you'd have 45,000 seats, some of which would be season ticket holders.
Okay,
And
just
they
quickly
were
to
offered-
start, the
So they were offered the season
Journal
ticket holders. Like
Constitution basically says they had they had rounds of pre-sale for tickets for the series. And they just start off with season ticket holders. So you had to buy tickets.
right.
Right. So that's it,
Yeah.
because the guy who sold them to Charlie
Yep.
was able to get the tickets from somewhere. Like you're saying there, Jim, he had to buy them. I'm
Yeah.
not sure what he paid. That's a good question because
Yeah, I
I
don't
was
see-
talking to
Yeah, I don't see a ticket price though on it.
I was talking to the guy next to me who was a season ticket seat holder in that seat. And he had bought, he told me it was $250 per seat for his season tickets, but he didn't tell me what it cost him to buy the ticket for the World Series. I don't know what it might have been. So I guess it just allowed him to buy.
Yeah, you
Extra
get
ticket.
first rights to, yeah.
Yeah. The key is to know somebody though. If you want to go to a World Series, find out who has season tickets so that you can maybe go through them to get other tickets for the World Series, at a cheaper price than StubHub.
Oh, no.
Man, yeah. I wouldn't pay that kind of money. I mean, $1,600 would be my limit, but that may be seated up in the fourth level, so.
Yeah, and the euchre seats. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I would not go on StubHub or something like that.
Oh, no.
I
Wow.
couldn't tell you how much I would pay for a Tigers World Series ticket. I don't know until the opportunity is either presented to me or is near it.
Yeah.
And I think, okay, let's have a little internal monologue here and decide what we're gonna do. Tell the wife.
And that could
Yeah.
easily be a once in a lifetime opportunity on a lot, but most major league teams. Like
Right.
the Braves, what has it been? 20? How long it's been since the Braves in the World Series?
26 years.
Since they
Matt,
won
what if
it.
it's
Since the World.
What if it's the Pirates? Won't the wife want to go?
Yes, and then all of a sudden, it'll turn out to be a very reasonable discussion, and I'm happy to tag along, and I'll be happy to help provide financial support for the purchase of the tickets. Yes, absolutely. But if it's the Tigers, well, there might have to be a different discussion had.
They had a pretty good second half, Matt.
They did. They are
Yep.
in the right direction. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm liking what I'm seeing, and I'm like seeing that AJ Hinch has done in terms of setting the tone in that team and that organization.
What there hasn't been a lot of discussion about is when you think about the Braves, I think you could make the argument they came through the three toughest teams in baseball. They had to beat the Brewers and the Dodgers and the Astros. Even though the Astros finished 2-3 games back in the American League standings, I think they beat the White Sox every time. They had a playoff with them.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't have the Braves just had a really rugged route to get there, and they did it.
Matt, you mentioned
I think the
Hinch.
Milwaukee and Dodger pitching alone.
Yeah. No,
You mentioned Hinch. And
Absolutely.
did anybody else catch him? He was doing the MLB analysis for the series. That man is really smart. I mean,
No,
he's
I didn't. Was that-
articulate. On a series, satellite radio,
Oh,
MLB
okay.
Network.
Okay.
He was
All right.
doing it, and he was really, really impressive guy.
Yeah. No, I happen to like AJ Hinch a lot. As a player at the major league level, when he was a catcher, he was, perpetual backup, and he floated around and so forth. But he came collegiately out of a good program at Stanford, and I think he was already pretty intellectually predisposed to looking at things differently. And he's just I really like him, and he sets a tone for the whole organization when he gives a press conference and talks about things that are going on down at Single A that no previous manager ever worried about. It's like, don't bother me with that. I got a clubhouse of 25 guys. I got to deal with that stuff. But AJ Hinch is talking about a borderline prospect down in Lakeland or in West Michigan or something. Yeah, he's just really sharp, really good. And I think that was a brilliant hire on their part to try and really turn things around and take it to the next level. So I'm optimistic. We'll see. All right.
The
Well,
Braves could be there for a while too.
yes, they could. First of all, okay, I'll ask this question before we get on to anything on the World Series. Freddie Freeman, first baseman, who is clearly the face of the franchise for the Braves, as they made clear last night again and again in the postgame, has been there through the lean years, has been there through the better years, and now has brought them a World Series, at least in part to him. As a first baseman, though, getting up there in years, he's not that old yet, but he's getting up there in years. He's what, is he 29, 30, something like that?
31 or 2.
31 or 2. Okay, so he's even
I think he might. Yeah.
early 30s.
Yeah.
If you were the Braves president general manager, would you resign Freddie Freeman? And if so, for how much, how many years? What do you think? Hey, Jim, I think you're muted there.
I was gonna say, if he's 32, I'd probably offer 4. But looking at it, he's already getting 22 a year.
Yep, he signed a team-friendly contract to keep him through the first, I guess, what would have been his first free agent period.
I don't think he's going to get that. I don't think he's going to get that type of money anywhere. And you could justify it if you're the Braves, as part of that is his PR value.
So what do you say then? So
because then you make him a career Brave.
Yeah, exactly, which is a rare thing. Now, would you go above the 22 mark? And if so, how much?
That I don't. That's, and I doubt they're swimming in money. So, and they've got a lot of other young guys that they got to pay soon. So.
Yep. They have a good crop of young guys who are going to become arbitration eligible before too long if they're not already.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure other teams are going to be paying him that.
I'll tell you one thing I noticed, that in the stadium, whenever Freddie, his name is ever mentioned or he comes up to bat, I mean, it's electric. They're much more, Rosario, I'd say, is the next most popular, but Freddie is, to me, from the reactions in the stadium, was far more popular than any of the others.
He's been there
So
forever.
it would be, yeah,
That's
it
what
would be
I'm
good
saying,
to keep them.
But I don't see him going to a different market and getting that money or that
Right.
loan,
Yeah.
just because they don't pay 32-year-olds anymore.
Right, a 32-year-old first baseman, no less. And it's
Right.
like, how much call is that there for that sort of thing normally?
Yeah.
Ring and fantastic statistics. Perhaps you could be talking about Freddie as a borderline Hall of Fame candidate if he has a couple more good years, really. I mean, the World Series is going to help cement his legacy pretty nicely. But yeah, I think it'll be very interesting to see what the Braves decide they can afford to do, given the financial limitations they might be facing with other players, with especially younger players. They're going to have to start worrying about paying Acuna. They're going to have to, who didn't even play because he was hurt at not even quite midseason. And of course, that's why they went out and got the four horsemen outfielders that they brought in. Who made
Matt,
contributions.
Acuna is under contract. Acuna is
Yeah.
under contract.
He is, but for how much longer? And
6-7 years.
is he for
He
that?
signed 10. He got signed a 10-year contract.
Okay, then there you go. Then that takes some of the burden, if you will, or they have some.
And
cost
Albies has
certainty.
got 4 more. Albies has got 4 more in
Okay.
his deal.
Okay, so there you go. So that's good. Then they can worry more about paying
He's got,
or overpaying.
Acuna's got 6 years and then it's the team options.
Okay.
What has Albies got left, Jim?
That I gotta quickly open up.
Well, he's looking that up. Does anybody know what type of financial reward a team like Atlanta will get because they're world champions? Do they get money from the World Series, of course, but
Mhm.
is there something else that would pull money in, revenues in? Because I mean, that'd be sales of merchandise, I assume, but is there anything else that would justify their giving Freddie a contract that would keep him?
You're talking like maybe like an additional bump or bonus in the TV contract money or something?
Yeah. Is there anything?
Extended season.
I don't
Albies is
know.
4 years and then 2 years team options.
Okay. Yeah, I as far as TV is concerned, I don't think so, because I think that's pooled, because at that point you're talking about national broadcast, Fox or an FS1 or TBS or whatever. I think that's pooled money. So I don't know that they gain anything in particular above and beyond what any other team would get out of that pool. What they might get beyond that, or what they might get from additional advertising, as minuscule as it might be, say on their local radio broadcasts, because the radio coverage goes all the way through the World Series locally. So they would get additional revenue from that. Probably not much in comparison, but they would get something from that, certainly the merchandising. And there's a winner's share, I think, that's still allotted to teams and players.
Yes. So
Winning.
it's over 400,000 a player to the winner.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
to approach the major league minimum. It's not there, but it's starting to approach.
Yeah.
that.
Each guy gets, I think team votes on full shares, but
Mhm.
in the loser share 2 years ago was about 270, I believe, for the World
Okay.
Series.
Okay.
And then remember, you got money building up along the way too for
Mhm.
the other playoffs, but
Yeah,
pretty
but
good deal.
That's not bad, but that's down to the individual player. But as far as the organization being able to make a decision about a Freddie Freeman and an extended contract for that first baseman at that age range, based on having a good long run and winning the World Series, monetarily speaking, I don't know if there is anything that they could
Oh,
specifically.
how about ticket sales next year?
there.
Next
Ticket
year's
sales-
ticket sales.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll be good. I would be curious next year, Glenn, if you go up and you see the Yankees or whomever comes into town next year, what does attendance look like in the wake of the World Series
Yeah.
championship at what is still a relatively new ballpark? Because the last time the Braves won the World Series, they were playing in Fulton County Stadium. So they actually,
Well, that's right.
I've won it. 96 was last year for Fulton County, or no, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 96 was last year for Fulton County, because 97, then they moved into
Right.
Turner, which had been there for the Olympics. So, yeah, they-
Matt,
yeah.
what were you guys talking? I got knocked off for a while and missed the early part of the Freeman conversation, but did somebody throw out what they thought might be a contract the Braves would afford and that Freddie might sign, or did you not get into that?
Not especially. Jim speculated on what he thought would be, or what he would pay if he were in the position to do so, in terms of years and kind of in terms of dollars. He's making about 22 right now, I think is what Jim said.
Yeah.
And on a very team-friendly contract, the end of which is the end of this season.
Which will help them too going forward with the Braves. They've had him on a good deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jim, what'd
so-
Jim say? Jim, what'd you say?
I said I would give him 4 years with the same rate, but basically because part of that's him being PR. I mean, he is a face of the team, and that's
Yes, absolutely. So you
Yeah.
wouldn't give him 100 for 4 years, but close.
no.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's going to get that money anywhere else.
He's worth so much more in Atlanta though than he
Yeah.
is anywhere else too.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
he's 32. He's 32. They don't give contracts like that to people over 30 anymore. So it's, maybe they'll go 5 years just, and
Yeah,
I think
he's still a hell of a player.
he is. No, he's still a great ball player, and his value
first
is.
baseman, so you don't
clear.
expect him to wear down as much.
Yeah.
But how old is Buster? I mean, he just retired today, I guess.
34, I believe.
So he retired at age 34. So I mean,
Yeah, 34,
Freddie might go till 36 or 37 or
He's in a lot easier position, Glenn, than
Yeah.
Buster.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Freddie's at the position where people like Buster go as they're trying to keep it going. So
I was gonna say, I think Buster might have showed a new path though for catchers. Like take a year or two off every once in a while.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
he's
that's-
going out. He's going out on the high part. That's a pretty neat.
Yes, he is, for sure. And I think we can look forward to a Buster Posey Day next year at Dick Hauser where they retire his number finally. Just have to find out what day that could be and who
That'd
the
be cool.
be.
What was it? Does anybody know what his average was for this year? Was it 300
It was over 300, I believe,
Yeah,
over?
and his career too. And that may be. He's a smart guy. That may well have gone in his thinking because I think Jim
Yeah.
probably could check this out. But I think his career average is right at
302.
3. Okay, there you
302.
go.
there you
That
go.
was
And
our-
this way,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal when you start looking at Hall of Fame.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Not being 299, but being 302.
Yeah.
158
it's-
home
it's-
runs. You got right at
Right,
at
Mantle stayed a year or two too long. He slipped under 300.
Right.
Yeah. I think he was 299, wasn't he, Jim?
Yeah, something like that.
Mhm.
298, 299.
Yeah, it must have killed him.
So,
He didn't
yeah,
have to worry about getting in the Hall of Fame, guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have to worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Not
think
just
Buster does
personal.
either, to be honest.
Mhm.
Even though his career numbers are pretty modest, but I think he was regarded maybe the best catcher in the game for a long time. And he was a centerpiece of 3 world championship teams,
That's right.
classy guy that everybody liked. I don't know. I'll be surprised if he's not first ballot, to be honest with you.
I think it could be an interesting test case because I want to see how they view catchers versus other position players, as long as they're not trying to compare the apples that are catchers to the oranges that are right fielders or first basemen or what have you. They just compare amongst the catchers. I think that'll be very interesting to see if he gets in there. Because I mean, a lot of people believe Yachty should get in too. I think there's a very strong case to be made for Yachty in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I do too. 20 years behind the plate. He's the top defensive catcher of the game. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to pick on the man in the middle according to my grid here, the almost complete Brady Bunch view. Chuck, what do you think? What do you think about Buster's chances?
I think that he'll go in the second year. I think he's going to get high 60%. Because now we have to, if you want to say, look 5 years from now, who's
Yeah.
in the pool
Right. Who's in the
and
ballot?
who's he's going up against. But historically, with the exception of 1 or 2 of the catchers, they tended not to go in first round unless they just got like 76% or 77%. Otherwise, they're high 60s. Then the next year, depending upon the slate of candidates, they go in at the high 70s or early or the low 80 percentiles. That's historically. But there again, it depends who's in the pool.
Yeah, I don't see doing a quick who retired. I see Dustin Pedroia, Jay Bruce, Daniel Murphy, Nick Markakis, Chris Davis, Brian Dozier, Jordan Zimmerman,
That's all the rookies for that year. But I'm
Right.
saying, who's the
Who are the
holdovers?
holdovers, yeah.
No, these are people who retired this year.
No, what I'm saying is that in 5 years from now, we're gonna have holdovers.
Right.
Oh,
And
Well,
who's that group of holdovers?
Right.
Since the ballot is from 0 to 10,
Right.
you can't name more than 10, and who's ever the holdovers?
Those who haven't yet reached eligibility but will in the next couple of years.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think that's gonna be interesting. So high 60s. Okay. Yeah, I think that will be very interesting to see how he does. But of course,
I don't think there have been that many. Have there been that many really big names retiring in the past year or two?
Ichiro. I
Yeah,
think
but that was a couple of years ago now.
he'll be
right.
he'll be out of the way by the time Buster.
Oh,
Well, yeah, he'll be first ballot. Who
So
else is there, Matt, on the way to be first ballot that's not quite there yet?
I don't
What
know.
do you think? When do you think Pujols is coming back next year?
I think if the national
How much money has he got left?
What, of the 240 million?
yeah,
Yeah,
I think he is coming back next year. Whether he finishes all the way through to the end in October next year, I don't know.
Did he go back to the DR to play this winter?
For the first time ever in his career, he's playing in
Yeah.
the DR Winter League. So, which is unusual. But yeah, at this point, I think that's a sign that he's coming back because he not only wants to have fun this winter and doing that, but he's trying to keep the skills sharp and try and get off to a better start next year than he got off to with the Angels this past year. So that's just my guess. But next year or this off season, we have the collective bargaining agreement rearing its head again. So
Yeah.
who knows all this stuff we're talking about with Freddie
Actually, no,
Freeman.
he may be.
Ooh,
I think he
academic.
He is
What's that?
done. Pujols.
What's that?
Pujols is a free agent, so.
Yeah, no, he's a free agent. That's why I'm saying if they have a National League designated hitter, I think someone takes a chance on him. Maybe even an
He
American
wants to, yeah.
PH.
how much do you pay him?
Oh.
You want to pay? You want to play, huh?
How about an incentive-laden contract?
Yeah, I think that would be the way to.
Starting with,
That might be a deal where St. Louis would do that. if the money were right.
yeah, to bring him back on a goodwill
Yeah.
tour kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many home runs did he hit this year?
He's not far behind 700, I don't think, is he? About 15 this year, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
15 to 20, maybe 18, something like that. Yeah.
Isn't he about 25 short, 20 to 25 short of 700?
He'd have a pretty good year next year to reach the 700 plateau, I think, if I remember correctly. I can't remember.
And he need 21.
21?
Yep.
Okay, there you go. So that
That may be an incentive.
have to be a pretty good year.
Well, look at his RBIs. He's like third all time, I think. Jim, are you looking at RBIs?
Yeah. What was he on that? He's 2150. So
He's third, right?
that's got to be one of these up. I don't think that's. Yeah.
Aaron's first. Bonds never got to 2,000 ribbies.
I don't know. I think about 2,150 of any statistical category counted stat in Major League Baseball. That's a lot. But RBIs, wow.
21 years of 100.
Yeah, I know they're not regarded in the same way they used to be, but that's still a pretty impressive total.
54 behind Ruth, and then he's got Aaron with 2297. So
So that's. But
You know what, Matt? I disagree with you on that. Tony Perez was always criticized for that because it was ahead of him. You still got to knock him in.
that's
Yeah.
what I agree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. I don't value them. Yeah, you still got to knock them in. And that's what Tony did. That was his great skill.
That's my criticism of the Yankees this year. Is they built a team that did not value RBIs, and it proved it.
Yeah.
Or even guys that could get on base a lot.
No, they had guys got on base 1 or 2 an inning, but
They stayed there.
there was no incentive to drive the,
Yeah.
to move the runner over or drive him in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
strike, right. No
Yeah.
run, no, a lot of strikeouts, yeah.
Small.
That's what-
Did you ever wonder, Jim, why they didn't pick up Eddie Rosario?
Yeah, that was one of the shrewder moves, the Braves.
They got Gallo, they need more strikeouts.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, that was
Yeah.
perfect. Well, it gets hot in the Bronx in August. You need more outdoor air conditioning, so Gallo can provide
Get
that.
the fans going.
Yeah, big swings, big breeze. So. All right, well, one other note I want to raise here, and then I want to turn the floor over to Chuck for his presentation on Hall of Fame batteries. And that is this coming Friday. I realize it's short notice, but many of y'all may already be aware of this, is FSU's annual Garnet and Gold game at Dick Hauser starting at 6 p.m. It's the intra-squad game they always play to finish out the fall ball season. And Diana and I have gone for several years now, and we enjoy the heck out of it. It's fun, it's free. You can sit in the grandstand, pick your seat, no reserved seats or anything. Just walk on in and just sit down and enjoy what is kind of a loose and easygoing scrimmage game. But you do get to see some of the guys who either have worked hard in the offseason to improve their stock if they're draft eligible, or just to improve their situation on the team, whether they're pitcher, hitter, catcher, outfielder, infielder, whatever. It's fun to see that. And it's also fun to see the transfers and the incoming freshmen for the first time in what comes as close as you can get in the fall to a real game. So, although they do play a couple scrimmages now during the fall as well, but the Garnet and Gold game is a lot of fun, and we're planning on going at 6 o'clock on Friday, weather permitting, which I think by then the rain's supposed to clear out, but I haven't double checked that today. So if any of you all are interested, let me know, and I'll look for you when we're there at Dick Hauser. We'll probably be sitting as close to behind home plate as we can for the duration, but I highly recommend it because it's a lot of fun, and it's free. Can't beat that. Any questions about anything else?
Yeah, Matt, I have the thing regarding our predictions and ties.
Okay, Chuck, you are co-host.
All right, it might be time to step away.
And Jim goes on mute. Chuck, if you want to project the final grid there, the final spreadsheet, that's cool. And we can talk. I don't want to make a decision tonight about tiebreakers because I don't think we have enough of a quorum here in attendance to do that. So we will do that next month. But I want folks to think about a tiebreaker situation that makes sense for our MLB predictions starting for next year in 2022. Because this year, as I think Chuck is about to show us, we have ended up with a tie.
Yeah.
And I will send it. You want me to send out the final sheet?
Yeah, you can. Well, I modified your existing one, and I can share it real quick just so we can peruse it if you don't.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do that.
Is Ben on by chance? Is he on tonight?
No, neither Ben nor Rick are.
Huh. Oh, shoot.
You got to be here to claim the prize.
Yep.
Right.
Off the tiebreaker.
All right, everybody able to see the spreadsheet there?
Yeah.
When the Yankees won the World Series, I did all right. Okay.
So that's the final. I took the latest version Chuck sent out, which yes, please, Chuck, if you can still go ahead and send it out to the group tomorrow. And I added in there in column R under World Series champ, highlighted the folks who picked the Braves and updated the score totals. And regardless of the outcome of the World Series, Ben and Rick tied for first place. Ergo, or hence the need for a tiebreaker. So if you can be thinking about what makes sense for a tiebreaker, we can discuss that next month. But yeah, Ben and Rick are our winners. So congratulations to them, even though neither one of those bums bothered to show up tonight. We ought to
They waived their right to the trophy, don't they?
well, that's true. I may just decide to withhold that and spend another year with me in the bucolic setting of Gadsden County. So
I was going to say they have even matches for the playoffs, so they have the same teams all the way through. It's just
Yeah.
what Milwaukee and the White Sox are the only difference.
yeah, it was pretty minuscule in terms of the separation between them, according to
Lori did pretty well.
yeah, Lori did quite well. You know what, Lori typically does pretty well, actually. Unfortunately, she can't make these meetings typically, but yeah, if she were here, she would have every right to chortle and brag about her consistently good scores. So finishing a pretty strong second place there.
Minnesota killed her
Is-
like
is-
everybody else.
Is Clint the young the young guy?
No, Clint Chafin is a longtime local chapter member. He lives up in South Georgia. Several years ago, actually, wow, it's probably more than several years ago, almost a decade or so ago, he came and gave a really cool presentation at SABR Day in America back when we were meeting at the fourth quarter on the work he's done over the years to hold reunions of players, ex-ball players who played in the Georgia-Florida League, Florida-Georgia-Alabama League, or some variation of that. Basically, the league that was, what were they, Class D league that the Tallahassee Capitals were part of for a time. And all sorts of small towns in Georgia had teams in that league. And he's been a historian. It's become a passion of his to kind of document the history of that league. And he would always invite veterans of those leagues to come back every year to Moultrie, I believe is where he held the reunions, or maybe Valdosta, and reminisce about their experiences and share fellowship with fellow vets from those leagues. They were well attended for years, and he ran all of that. And so he's stayed tapped in with our chapter as a result of presenting to us all those years ago. And he did a pretty good job of making his picks there too. He wrote Atlanta pretty thoroughly all the way to the end. No surprise, he's a Braves fan. So
As Ben Gaddis is too, just a true Braves fan.
Yep, which I'm thinking he's probably still sleeping it off. Either that or he's actually, maybe he's actually studying for class.
Yeah, got classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, his grades might have slipped during the month of October there.
Tell them they have to have a home run hitting contest, 10 pitches.
Not a bad idea. I hadn't considered the physical challenge aspect of the tiebreaker situation.
I was like looking like, you know, their picks are pretty much the same. So it's like you can't go, you know, one has a wild card pick there or something that's different than, so it's.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how a tiebreaker could even be set up that would change anything.
yeah, I don't know, other than, you know, we'll just create yet another column on the spreadsheet with another category saying pick the total number of runs scored in the World Series.
You have to pick the winners of the Arizona League.
The Arizona Fall League. There you go. There you go. The complex league in Arizona. There are the picks, and Chuck will be sending those out tomorrow. Go ahead and stop sharing now. And with that, I think it's time to make our segue into Hall of Fame batteries. It is all yours. You are co-host, so if you'd like to project, please feel free.
Mine there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. There we go. This was a part of my promo that I sent. Is Ford and Bear the only Hofers who formed an actual battery? And Brent just named Bench and SABR, and Jim named, let's say, the old-time Yankees that was with Bill Dickey, Gomez, Grimes, Hoyt, Pennick, Ruffing, and so forth. This will go into all of those true Hall of Fame batteries. Here's some structure around it. We have 16 catchers in the Hall of Fame plus the 3 Negro Leaguers. And we do not have any regular season games that have been authenticated. So that's why they're not included. We have 75 pitchers in the Hall of Fame, true pitchers. There are 51 pairings of Hoffers, catchers, and pitchers. Plus, we have 23 non-pitcher Hall of Famers that pitched. Here, I can give you some of them. It's kind of surprising. Musial, Ted Williams, Wade Boggs, Ty Cobb, Honus Wagner, Jimmy Fox, King Kelly, Buck Ewing. These are non-pitcher Hall of Famers that pitched in their career. and I will address the ones that the non-pitcher hoppers that pitched to a hoffer at the end of my brief. Just for the thing of the 75 pitchers in the Hall of Fame, 35 of them linked up with a Hall of Famer catcher. 7 of those pitchers had multiple battery mates, and 33 did not form a battery with any Hall of Famers. First up, and I have this structured around catchers, the 16 catchers. And Brent was right. Here's Tom Stever. Each of the slides will be involved with a catcher, Hall of Fame catcher, that is teamed up with a Hall of Fame pitcher. I put the years that they were together, the games, they formed a battery, how many innings, and with the teams. Vera and Whitey Ford was my question. Were they the only ones? And obviously the answer is no. Bresnahan teamed up with 5 Hall of Fame pitchers. Now, I don't know if you can see my cursor here or not. When I don't have the numbers of games or the innings or so forth, that's because from 1876 to around 1916, I don't have access to a whole lot of box scores. And an awful lot of this information comes out of box scores of how many innings, how many games, and so forth, of going one by one. That's something that I'll be doing in my research as the database becomes available. Campanella had Koufax and Drysdale.
Can't be caught them, huh? Wow.
Carter. Have you heard of this pitcher?
Yeah. I'm related.
Unrelated.
I'm related to that picture.
Mickey Cochran.
Mhm.
Lefty Grove and Hoyt. Wait, Hoyt. Bill Dickey.
Any of the bunch.
Yes. I have the list of all of their ones, how many that they won when they teamed up, but it really does not make that sense because they were not complete games. So by me just putting out a 1-loss record, that was the game that they formed a battery, may not have been the score of the game while they were as a battery. Relievers might have come in and blown it or whatnot. So I didn't put that up there.
Yeah.
And to answer the question, what constitutes a battery? That is, one pitch, one batter constitutes a battery.
And the box score would show that as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now, sometime if we need some fill in at one of our Zooms, I can go down a live search, if you want to say, of Baseball Reference, how you get to all of this information and how you can zoom down. And by the way, it's on the free part of BBRef. So you don't need to pay for the stat head piece at all. Buck Ewing. An awful lot of this, as you'll see, I don't have games or innings, but however, I verified it with at least one box score. All of these, when I have it like John Clarkson, I did have a box score. Tim Keefe, I did have a box score that showed that Buck Ewing did in fact catch Tim Keefe.
Is Buck the only one that caught a Hall of Famer in his debut?
Again,
Because there was a trivia question this week, and I was looking at Buck Ewing,
oh,
and his debut was catching Tim Keefe.
oh. But
Well,
how many games?
But no, his debut.
First
was
one,
catching a
debut.
Hall of Famer.
Oh, his first debut.
So I was
Yeah,
wondering, did anybody else, was their
that
debut?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That I don't know.
Who did Buck play for?
Troy and the Giants and somebody else.
Rick Farrell.
Boy, you got early win. I'll be darned. Huh.
Carlton Fisk, the second Hall of Famer that caught Tom Seaver.
Where the heck was that? That must have been the White Sox, was it?
It
Oh,
was.
yeah.
Then 84 through 86, 56 games.
Okay. Aside from Seaver, all those guys are still living too.
Yep. And Grimes is one of those that had two Hall of Famers.
But when you say that Grimes had two catchers
That were Hall of Famers, correct.
Hall of Famers? Okay.
Jeez.
He had Bill Dickey
Oh, Seaver
and
too.
Gabby Hartnett.
Yeah. Right, Seaver had at least two then too, right? Pension Fisk. Yeah. Yeah, look at Simmons. Oh, man.
There you go.
Anybody see his Hall of Fame speech?
Yes.
Might be the best one I ever saw there.
Yeah, it was very good.
Now I've stacked these up in the from the most to the least, or the none, if you want to say, and who they've caught, just as a quick summary so you can see. I should have highlighted those pitchers who had multiple off catchers. But it's Steve Carlton had two, Grimes had two, Lefty Grove had two, Wade Hoyt had two, Carl Hubble had two, Herb Pennock had two, and Tom Seaver had two.
Wow.
Catchers, Hall of Fame catchers they threw to.
It's amazing Gary Carter never even had one when you consider his span of his career.
Okay, here's the record holders, if you want to call it. Cochran and Grove had the most games as the battery of the Hall of Famer batteries. 315 games. Most innings, Dickey and Ruffing, 2,000 innings.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then Bill Dickey had the most games, 700 games with 5 different pitchers.
Wow.
Bill Dickey also had the most innings of off pitchers, those 5 pitchers, 4,600 innings. And Buck Ewing had the most seasons with off pitchers, 35 different player pitcher seasons with 5 pitchers.
Hey, Chuck, did Yogi, was he the immediate replacement for Dickey, or was there somebody between them?
There was about 3 also rans. And the sense that they were the backup to Dickey. They had, remember, they had the war years in which it was, you know, and then Berra came back from the war and pick up, but, you know, it's kind of like saying they really didn't have a star catcher in the Yankees between Dickey and Berra.
Okay.
All righty, now here's a oddity. This is King Kelly in the 19th century. He's an outfielder Hall of Famer, but he caught 584 games.
Jeez.
He caught first baseman Cap Anson, who pitched in a game. He also caught old Hoss Radburn as a pitcher, and he caught pitcher Kid Nichols while he was King Kelly was catching. Of course, back in that time frame, you played everywhere on the field, so it's not surprising. Now we get to somebody newer. First baseman, Hall of Famer, pitched in 10 games. And he also caught in 109 games.
Oh
And
my
he
gosh.
caught Hall of Fame pitcher Lefty Grove. So Jimmy Fox more or less was a want to say everywhere around the infield. Now, this is the future Hall of Fame batteries. And I've broken them up into catchers in the Hall of Fame, and the pitcher is waiting to go in if he ever does. And that would be Andy Pettit and Jim Kapp, or Cott, however you want to say it.
Cott. He'd like Cott probably.
This is the pitcher is in the hall. The catcher is waiting. Mike Mussina with Jorge Posada, Bert Blyleven with Lance Parrish, Jim Sundberg, Randy Hundley, Robin Roberts, Degonian Smokey Burgess, Randy Hundley. Fergie Jenkins is in, waiting on Randy Hundley. Both catcher and pitcher waiting. You'll see down there, I have Joe Mauer, Yachty, and Buster.
All pretty likely candidates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the strange thing is I pulled up Greinicke's catchers that he's caught in his entire career. And there's not a potential Hall of Fame catcher in any of those. Because
Is that Greinke?
Greinicke.
Yeah.
From Houston. there was mention during the series by the commentators that he's on his way to the Hall.
There you go. Man, you haven't lost a step, Chuck. That's great. Man alive, amen.
Yeah.
Okay, sports fan.
That was great, Chuck.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Chuck?
Did I miss it there? Did Kershaw have anybody?
No.
Okay.
There's only one team, yeah.
That's what I can't think of a Dodger catcher.
Yeah.
But they might have picked up somebody for, a week.
Well,
or
the
two.
kid they got now may get there. Isn't that his name? Will Smith?
Smith.
Yeah.
Got a ways to go.
Saying the young guy the Dodgers got catching now. Got a long way to go, but he's got a good start.
Yeah. Awesome. That was very cool. Did I see that right? Jimmy Fox caught in 1940. How old would he be at that point?
He was probably drunk.
Yeah.
Well, in 1940, he could have drawn Social Security because that was created in 1938.
Yeah.
Chuck,
tried-
Chuck, do you know
Remember that.
why Fox would have caught those games? I mean, did they need him to catch, or was it I want to catch, or do you have any idea?
Well, if you look at all the games, and it's kind of hard to go without showing the display of all the games and all the years that a player batted in or a pitcher pitched in, and then comparing them. You look at those years of where he appeared, and almost all those years he appeared in catcher, first base, third base, pitcher. So it's hard to say if he wanted to do it, was forced to do it, but in those years. Now, to a specific game, I don't know. And I haven't matched up the teams with Fox.
It looks
All
like
I know is he was considered to be a very popular player in the media.
it looks like his first 3 years, just when he was starting, he would come up for a few days. He was a catcher.
But he was young. That's a lot of players are.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he started in this.
So and then you got into the Warriors, and they probably needed somebody, and he's like, I could probably do this, and
Yeah. That's.
Yeah,
Does that
with
show
an
where he's
old man
from?
with gray hair, that's something else.
he was also only 30. He was only 34, so he was.
Okay. All right.
He must have been young when he came up then, really.
Yeah, he was 17 his first year.
Okay.
Jeez.
He and Mel Ott, huh?
We only played 10 games, but his first
Yeah.
3 years he played in 61 was the most games, but he's listed as a H2, H29, 3H2. So he was catching when
Yeah.
he started. So I have a feeling he probably he was, you guys need somebody. It was the Warriors. I can do this.
Yeah, must have been. Talented guy.
Yeah. Underappreciated Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally underappreciated, I think.
And he was hitting like 220s those years. No power.
Hmm.
Interesting.
What was his hit career? Jim?
What?
Jimmy Fox total
Numbers.
hits in his career.
26-46,
How about dingers?
534,
Oh, my God.
the 325 average.
Wow.
Wow. And he was hitting 220 when he first came up.
Oh, no, when he first came up, he was hitting the crap out of it. His
When
first year,
did you say?
his first year, he was only playing a few games. He was 17.
Does that show his date of death?
Yeah, it should somewhere. 67, July 21st.
So he lived to be what?
59 in Miami.
Wow.
I wonder,
So,
does anybody have any idea? I mean, this is just on that age factor. Do baseball players have longevity? Does anybody have any sense for that?
Well, some do, Glenn, but
Well, yeah, some do, but I mean, in general, I wondered as a sport, you would think baseball would be kinder to the body than football or.
I think star
Something like
players,
that.
I think the average is under 4 years, I think, of people staying in. And that's one of the big things with the collective bargaining agreement now. About, how short careers are, especially with the,
Well, but I think it's also,
keeping older players.
if you go back on a lot of these guys, it's they kept playing, they would go to the minors, a lot of guys, and play until the 30s, through their 30s. I mean, I think Fox just ruined his body. Because he had some incredible years, and then once he hit 33, it just fell off.
I think he was a drinking man, wasn't he?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, he partook. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think on average, the average career of baseball players?
Wow.
But that's what I'm saying. I think if depends how you're looking at it. Are you looking at it for a lot of guys play in the minors for as long as they can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go
But
back
that
and
would
some of the guys who were not this pro in the majors would then go to California for a few years. So they all play for, you might look at their major league, they played 10, 12 years.
But in terms of minor or major league versus football players, like the
Easily.
average,
but no question it's longer than baseball, Glenn,
Yeah.
I think. The running back average in NFL is like 3 years.
really?
The
Yeah,
average.
it's very short.
It's
Yeah.
very, very short.
I think
And,
if it wasn't for linemen, the average would really be short.
If what?
If it wasn't for linemen and kickers,
Yeah, and
Right.
quarterbacks to some degree too. John.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, I can run a search and send it out of taking the age over, you want to say the playing year. In other words, the date of the year of birth, the year of death, subtracted how old were they in life, and throw in on top of that and separate them out by how many years that they played in MLB.
Well, if you want to get somebody who's going to blow those numbers off the charts, look at Nolan Ryan over 40.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
was unbelievable over 40.
Princeton Review, average major league career is 2.7 years.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
But
Yeah,
that's
but
because
those
guys
numbers
who
are,
come up,
those
but that's
those
because you have
numbers are,
guys that come up just for 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
yeah,
Oh, of course. Yeah. The so-called drink of water guys,
Yep.
cup
But
of
that-
coffee guys.
Cup of coffee.
Mhm. Wow. I'm surprised a lot of guys go as long as they do today with the money that they earn. That's one of the things that I have a lot of respect for is how great at conditioning they make millions and millions of dollars. And I guess the rate where they just keep staying in great shape and keep staying performing at a high. A lot of the athletic arena people, hit back on their goals. They're like, these guys they're multimillionaires and they perform a lot of them well into their 30s.
Can you
But who gets
verify,
all of those dinero?
Yeah.
Jim, can you verify the average playing career of football?
Well, it depends who you go to. Because RBC Wealth Management basically has football being the longest career on average.
And
Or
does it have basketball there?
Average playing careers in Major League Baseball, they have 5, basketball 5, hockey 6, and football 7. But I don't know what they're using for averages.
I think they're using the Canadian Football League is what I think.
They have
It's,
NFL.
it's RBC, Royal Bank of Canada.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
But
you
that's what I'm
know,
saying, I don't know how they are judging it.
right? The
Maybe
guys
they're
who,
counting high school and college.
and the
Yeah.
guys who get spend a lot of time in the minors and just get called up now and again. I mean, would that be?
That's what I'm wondering.
And maybe they're down in the minors for 3 years and then they get called back up. Is that 5 years or 2 years? You know?
Well, that's why I'm wondering what, like for football, it's like if you're a taxi squad guy for 2 or 3
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
and then come up, so
Same
that's
thing.
a whole career. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what constitutes an actual career? Yeah, yeah. It's what constitutes a career? Because a taxi squad guy he's not part of the official roster, or is he? You know.
Because then I pull up another. Ram Financial Group has NFL at 3.5 years, baseball 5.6, hockey 5.5, and NBA 4.8. Baseball's the winner there. But again, it doesn't say how they differentiate between Cal Ripken and a guy who shows up for a day.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings me back to thinking about Buster and him retiring at age 34, if indeed that is to come to pass, and getting out while he still can walk, while he
Yep.
still pick up his kids.
Catcher, yeah.
So remember where his keys are. Not too many blows to the noggin, hopefully. And so he's probably getting out at precisely the right time, and maybe that also kind of showed him the way, kind of reminded him of just how great it is to be able to still do all that and to be a father and to be a husband and everything else. And it's like, you know, man's getting out maybe at the right time instead of trying to stick around and milk the stats and maybe play first, maybe play second, you know, whatever.
I think that would be a mistake because I think that's what they did to Joe Mauer. And Mauer going over to first, he then became, quote, an average first baseman. And
Correct.
you combine that with catching stats, and you're going to look at the Hall numbers and say, well, we don't know, you know, we look at his whole career. Well, had he stayed just 2 more years catching, not go to first, he would have been a walk-in shoe-in.
Oh, he still should be.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep, definitely. But
His
you're right,
best
Chuck,
years
it's-
were his best years were while he was behind the plate. And thank God for him. I mean,
Yeah, and his stats, they get watered down. He moves to any other position, Buster, Mauer, whoever you like. You know, it's
well, Buster's getting out with his career over 302. What did he win a batting title? I believe he was MVP. He was the
Rookie of the
heartbeat
year.
of 3 world champion. I mean, he checks off an awful lot of boxes, not to mention the quality of person he is, which you cannot, I mean, voters are human beings, and he's not, most people are going to vote for him.
Yeah.
But you're right, Matt. He's a smart guy. He's a wonderful human being, and his priorities are right where they should be. And
I can't wait to watch the conference tomorrow when he announces. I want to hear what kind of questions he's asked and how he responds, because I think this is going to be a fascinating study into the.
they've got 2 really top end prospects coming too.
They already have Joey Bart.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they drafted Bailey out of NC State a year ago.
Right. Yep. So, yeah, the Giants are be hurting in that department, and that maybe I have no idea if that factored into Buster's thinking at all, or any kind of pressure he might have gotten from the Giants to say, "Hey, if you want to stick around, we might move you to first because we're not going to re-sign Brandon Belt."
Well, he could also be the designated hitter,
if they get the DH, yes, he could.
which it looks like they're going to do that, right?
Yeah, I think that seems to be a fairly foregone conclusion in the negotiations between the union and the owners. But I wonder about his, I don't know. I can't imagine him being happy as a DH. I can't imagine him coming
No.
being a DH, you know.
No, you're right.
I can't see that.
And, Freddie Freeman's a lot like that too. In fact, last night, the first thing he said was, he asked him about what did it mean to him? He said, well, the first thing he thought to him was a little 5-year-old watching the game. He says, this is about the time kids get their first memories. And he says, Charlie, I guess the boy's name is Charlie, says Charlie's going to remember Dad's team winning the World Series. I mean, it's neat to hear that where Freeman was at, mind-wise, and how proud he was, and that, the little guy was old enough to possibly remember it. So.
And wow, you definitely want your kid coming back to a stadium where they're cheering you. So.
Yeah.
Really?
As opposed to the opposite. Yeah. No, that's a pretty cool.
Speaking of the Freeman thing, I don't know about anybody else, but when Freddie struck out 7 times in a row early on in the postseason, I was like, oh my God, the Braves are going down. That was so bizarre. And then all of a sudden it was over and he was back to hitting again. Did anybody see any stories about what was going on when he was in such a horrible slump?
I did not.
I didn't either.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It was crazy.
How he was
Like
feeling.
he didn't have a chance up at the plate.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he was feeling too much pressure. Maybe he was putting too much pressure on himself. I don't
know. It's weird.
Whatever he did, I mean, that's the mark of a great athlete.
Yeah.
Somehow fixed it. And he fixed it at a time when the odds and the stakes couldn't have been higher and the odds couldn't have been greater against him. And it's like, man, that's pretty impressive. Flip that like that.
His on-field demeanor is about as good as it gets too. Whether it's balls or strikes, no matter what's going on, and I mean, he showed a lot of emotion, of course, for the last out. And I don't see a waste of time putting that ball in the zip pocket. But I mean, his demeanor is just, like you said, Matt, you watch him, you go for 7 and you think he'd be frustrated, but he doesn't show any difference in when he's around. Well, he does get a little pumped when he hits a 460-foot home run like he did a couple nights ago. But,
can't blame him.
I think.
Did he wind up with a high 290 average? Was that it for the season?
I think you're right. Turner, where you at?
Where's our statistician there? The man with BB ref on speed.
I thought I saw earlier he was over 300 for the year. Let's see. He was 300 on the nose.
Really? Wow.
What, 30 some homers, right?
31.
And how about our Ribbies?
83.
Yeah. I think his OPS over the last 4 or 5 years hovers in that 900 area, which is
actually was one of his lowest. He was 896 this year.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's an off year, boy. He really tanked. That's terrible. That's embarrassing. I'll tell you what I like about Freddie Freeman, and this is something that I don't know that gets brought up enough. You'll hear it during games sometimes if you watch enough Braves games. But when he's playing first and the hitter gets to first base, however he gets there, walk, hit by pitch, whatever, his demeanor, his interactions with those opposing
all the time. Yep.
Definitely noticed that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's just, he'll give him a little pat on the butt. Talk with him, he'll joke around with him a little bit, how's family, how's kids.
You know who else does that, Matt? You know who else does that, right?
Miguel Cabrera.
Well, Anthony Rizzo's big time
and
too.
Yeah, and Rizzo as well. Yeah, Miggy will screw around with guys when they get to first. I mean, he does all sorts of stuff. He'll be picking batting gloves out of their pockets and all sorts of. It's hilarious because anything you get to get a laugh out of them, but also distract them, because if they're not paying attention, suddenly
pick them off.
Picked off, caught stealing. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
1-3.
Yeah.
But Freddie is just. I don't know. I get, Jim, I get where you're coming from, but if I'm the Braves, I'm willing, I think, at this point to probably in a little champagne haze of the World Series championship, I think I'm willing to pay a little bit more.
And I'd do it right now. Sell your season tickets to make up the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then people get their letter next month about renewing their season tickets and some prices have gone up. Well, we signed Freddie. So.
Right.
Is there any thought that because of the collective bargaining agreement, that there'll be delays in signing free agents? You know, till people know what the CBA is gonna look like?
Oh,
Yeah, I think that's gonna,
I've read different interpretations of what people think is going to happen in terms of the CBA affecting free agent signings, whether there will be a rush to do it early without knowing a lot of the details about how that's going to shape up. I don't see too many organizations going for that. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it's what we faced. How long ago was it when there was the mad rush to sign people in March once the collective bargaining agreement had been reached between the union and owners? Because up to that,
agreement expires December 1st at midnight.
oh my gosh.
yep. So you got a month left where everyone's going to try and figure this out, and the union and the players are going to, so the union and the owners are still going to try and negotiate. But there'll be a lot of good faith between those two entities right now. And so I don't know what we get, but I have a feeling it's going to go, negotiations go well past December 1st, that expiration date. That's my thinking. Teams making huge.
I hope they don't create a lot of, yeah. It's a great postseason. I hope they can keep the momentum positive and not screw it up with some labor issues that are unnecessary. I mean, the game's pretty dang healthy for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Decently so. Baseball always does a wonderful job of self-sabotaging. That's a constant.
Did anybody see the stats on the viewership for this World Series compared to pre-pandemic World Series?
No.
Was it more popular or less popular?
Well, are you judging just TBS? No, but I have a feeling it's just like with all sports now. Are you judging it just on TBS, or do they have live streaming numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really hard to.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anything about ratings for this World Series. I think that's a good question, but I think Jim's right. It's how you evaluate it holistically, not just by TV, but any other.
Yeah.
The stories always come out that baseball is the worst, having its worst, and
I was just totally impressed in the stadium that there's so many women and so many young people, both at the time we were watching the Yankee Braves as well as the World Series. I was expecting older people to not be the majority, but to be represented, but it's a younger person's attendance.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting to me.
Well, and
It was gratifying.
Yeah, and fan balls too, kids. And I think that is
great.
That is a huge selling point, and not to be underestimated or undervalued in any way. And MLB doesn't, because they need future fans to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
Well, they had the
impressed.
major markets in too for ratings. You had Atlanta, you had Houston, you had LA, you had Boston, they had most of the big market teams were in. So the White Sox. So I would guess they probably did pretty well with the ratings, but I don't know. I haven't seen them.
Series as a whole averaged 11.74 million viewers, which is the second lowest of all time.
Oh my!
Really?
Wow.
Wow.
But that's just straight up viewership on TV, correct?
That's on Fox.
On Fox, okay.
Oh, huh.
So I don't know how much stock you put in that. I'll tell you, the owners will put a lot of stock in it when it comes time to renegotiate those television contracts for national broadcast rights and so forth. They don't really want to be faced with those numbers, I'm sure. So
much has to do with the kind of the luck of the draw who's in the series, though. If it had been the Yankees and the Dodgers,
the
ratings would have just gone through the roof.
Or Boston,
yeah, they would have been far better. Or conversely, the Brewers and the Rays. I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, right.
Tell you what, the Rays are a lot of fun to watch all season. I don't know how they do it, but they, win 100 games with a payroll like they've got and so many no names, and they just were fun to watch the way they played the game.
Yep,
I agree.
Hey, did I hear correctly? It was a quick thing I'd heard on the.
Glenn, you still there?
This way?
Yeah, I lost them for a second.
Yeah, we lost his
I think
speed.
he
Froze.
Yeah. Let's see if he unfreezes. Let's see if he thaws.
There he
Who-
comes.
There he is.
All right.
Has anybody heard about whether Tampa is reconsidering a possible site for the Tampa Bay Rays?
Montreal still is all you ever hear, but I don't think anything's.
I heard something.
And
It was a flash, but they definitely.
there's always talk of somewhere in Tampa. So
Yeah, they said. I thought I heard somebody say they're coming up. They're trying to come up with another plan, and I hadn't heard anything else about it. Maybe I just heard it wrong.
Glenn, I've got a son that lives in Sarasota, and he follows the Rays pretty closely. And he said the talk, at least on radio and stuff, and this is probably more fan talk, but as they keep that Ybor City area they keep talking about. I don't know. I mean, I know where Ybor City is, but I don't know much about it in terms of putting a baseball stadium and having a room for parking and all that. But he said that seems to kind of dominate the talk on sports talk down there about where they, but I guess that St. Pete lease must be pretty tight legally because it's still got years to go.
Yeah, I think 2026, I think, is the last year.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's about 5 or 6 years away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last I heard is that politically things were so poisonous between the Rays and the mayor of St. Pete that there was no hope of them gaining consideration for anything on that side of the bridge. But Tampa still seems to be trying to woo them in some form or fashion. Ybor City site has a lot of cachet, romance to it, and it's by I-4 and major intersections. I just don't know if they built something there. Is there going to be any parking? I don't know what they would do about parking.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Well, how about even fans coming? I mean, that's ridiculous. They don't get more support than they get, even where they're at.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's
well, it's the area down there is horrible to drive in. I mean, if you're in Tampa and you get out of work at 6 o'clock, you might not get there to the stadium in the first two innings.
Yeah.
Which you would think it's 2 feet away, but it's just the way the traffic's set up down there. Because I've had to cover stuff in Tampa where I'd get off at 5 o'clock. And, all right, good. I'll go catch a game. And I would get maybe a couple innings into the game when I got there. Just
the rush hour traffic over Howard Franklin is what you mean?
But then also driving south through St. Pete is just horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to go almost all the way to the end. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we've reached the magic 90-minute mark plus with no game 7 to rush off to. We were able to give it full attention, full term. Anything else for the good of the order before we say good evening?
Are we back?
I have one thing.
Chuck, go ahead.
Yes, on behalf of Brent, Ben, Fred, Bruce, Roger, and myself, a week from tomorrow, as you'll see on my background thing here, is Veterans Day.
Yes.
And the names I just gave you were 6 of our membership who were veterans or are veterans.
Thank you for your service, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Yes,
well,
sir.
thank you. Yeah.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Speaking as the son of a veteran and the son-in-law of a veteran, I can appreciate that as well.
And Chuck, thanks for pointing it out. I always appreciate that when somebody does. So.
Me too.
So,
And and Matt, how about next month's meeting? Are we going back to a Fish House?
Back to the Fish House in person. I haven't firmed up the reservation on the room there.
Okay.
Go back there for December. We'll have the official handing off of the award to the 2 co-winners, and we can talk time.
After they do their skills test.
Yeah, the skills test. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll get out in the parking lot. We get a little game of wiffle ball going.
And that'll be the first, right? December 1.
Yes, it's right on. It is December.
Okay, good.
Right at the
At
beginning.
7 or 6?
6.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks, Chuck, for the presentation.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
thank you,
Very
Scott.
Good
Thank you,
presentation.
Good
Chuck.
job, Jack.
You're welcome.
Really interesting.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. And with that, gentlemen, I'll bid you a fond good evening, and we'll see you all next month.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Or this
That's
weekend.
right. Okay,
Or
guys.
this weekend at FSU.
Yes, or this Friday at FSU Garnet. Don't forget that 6 p.m. Just final plug. All right, gentlemen, y'all take care.
Yeah, good night.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.